Alright guys, welcome back to Death from Above 40k and welcome back to my Space Wolves bit of a review, bit of tactics, bit of list building and where I'm at with it. So far I have been painting like a madman, had a bit of extra time on my hands, as you probably know, everybody's working from home these days and doing stuff like that, so that's given me a little bit of extra time to paint a heap of models. On that note too, everybody out there, keep yourself safe and look after yourselves, alright? Now, back onto the list. So far here I've got about 1100 points painted. So I'm going to be taking this up to obviously the 1500 point mark, then the 1750 mark. But I just wanted to show where I was at the moment, some of the tactics I'm going to be employing and what's in the list. So far in the list we've got Primaris, Ragnar blackmaine, Stormcaller, Bjorn the Fell-Handed as 3 HQ choices. Then for troops we got a squad of blood claws, a squad of intercessors and a squad of grey hunters. Sorry, they're the grey hunters, they're the blood claws. Up the back we have a whirlwind, which I made out of some bits and bobs, and we have a long fangs pack. So at this point in time, like, we've got the update and there's a few new things. So army wide, when we get to the combat doctrine on 6s we get exploding hits. I personally really like this. I think it's really good. It's going to gel well with a lot of the sort of attacks and stuff, because most of the guys in our armies, in the Space Wolves army, come with chainswords and stuff like that, which infer extra attacks anyway. Then on the charge you're getting the extra attack. So you're going to be rolling a lot of dice, which means that you're going to be getting a few of those exploding hits coming through. Obviously in the combat doctrine you've got the extra AP, all that sort of stuff. So that's really good. I suppose the thing is, we hit really well to start with, so you know, you got to remember that Hunters Unleashed allows us, when we charge, to get +1 to hit. So anything, pretty much the entire army is hitting on 2s in combat unless it has a Thunderhammer or a Power Fist, in which case it's hitting on 3s. Then obviously if you've got a captain, or you've got Bjorn around, or you've even got Ragnar around, you're re-rolling the 1s. So it's going to generate a lot of hitting, and it's going to generate a lot of exploding hits. So this is going to be really good for us in the combat phase. So it's just going to be good. We'll get the other doctrines now as well. So the tactical and the devastator doctrine, that'll come in handy. So that first turn, you know, your whirlwinds, your long fangs, Bjorn up the back there with his las cannon, they're going to be able to, you know, get that extra AP. So, you know, your rockets become AP3, las cannons AP4, all that sort of jazz. Then obviously in the tactical doctrine, which you can now have for 2 turns, if you need to get up the board further, if you're not quite making it to assault. Gives you AP1 on your assault and bolter weapons, or assault and rapid fire weapons, sorry. Which is really good because, you know, across the board, Space Wolves pack a bucket load of plasma, melter, flamer and bolt weaponry. So this is really good in general, just for making our way up the board. Flamers on your blood claw packs, you know, because you want to be running them up to get them in assault, make them a bit more mobile. They're going to be more effective. Obviously on your intercessors, everyone's been using all them with their extra AP and they've been dominating things. And with your grey hunters, because they're such an all-round troop, you're really going to get the all-round benefit of all 3 doctrines, I think, with them. They're going to be a really good troops unit this edition. So what I'll do now is I'll go through each of the parts of the army. I'll start with the HQ. I'll break down why I've chosen what I've chosen and what I'm going to be doing with it on the battlefield. Alright, we'll be back in a minute. Alright guys, here it is. We have our HQ choices now. So far I've got 3 of them. The reason I've got 3 of them is obviously, let's go through who they are first. So I've got Stormcaller in Terminator armor, down here. Next to him, got Bjorn the Fell-Handed, and I've armed him with the twin las cannon and the heavy flamer, and he's obviously got his true claw. And then next to him we have the new Primaris Ragnar blackmaine. Now I made my own Ragnar blackmaine, which I'll get a bit of a look here. So I decided that I thought I could pull it off. Oop. And this is what I've come up with. So this is my Ragnar blackmaine. I'm really happy with how he's come up, the basing and whatnot. It worked out well because I think that the GW version's been put on back order, which is a bit of a shame for anyone who's ordered it. Just hang in there, guys, your model will come. So I just decided to create one. I had to saw this leg to get the running pose and all that sort of stuff, but I think it's come up pretty well. I like the bolt pistol in the hand, you know, charging forward with that sort of look. So this is what I come up with, and this will be the Ragnar blackmaine in primaris armor in my army. All right, so let's go through it. So we'll start from right to left. So Njal Stormcaller. So I've put him in there for psychic support. So the whole idea behind him is to sort of give the army that buff as they're moving up the field, but then also be able to hit back and start targeting people with, you know, your smites and things like that. So it's a bit of a defense attack sort of thing army wide. So the powers I've gone with him are Tempest Wrath, which allows me to pick a unit within 24, and then that unit suffers -1 to hit when targeting my units. So, you know, they might have a big scary something or other that's coming at me, and I need it to not be as effective in battle. So I shine some sparkly lights in its face and, oh no, I can't hit as well. That was a bad example, but you get my point. So that's the first one I use, just to shut down a bit of shooting. Who knows, it might be like assault hellblasters, or it might even be a hard hitting combat unit like a big blob of orcs or something, where you want them hitting on 4s instead of 3s, just to give you that advantage because you're outnumbered. The next one I have given him is the Stormcaller. Now the Stormcaller, he pretty much gives everything within 6 cover. So I think that that's pretty important. I've done it in a lot of other armies with my Death Guard and stuff like that. Never underestimate cover. Going from a 3-up to a 2-up is magnificent. It means if you're getting hit by, you know, bolt guns with AP1 and all that sort of thing, you're still getting your 3-up save. You're not negated down to a 4-up, or sorry, up to a 4-up. It just gives you a little bit more survivability. So there is 2 support powers that I've given him. So obviously one to make a unit hit worse, and the other one to give my units cover as they're making their advance. So the third power I've given him is Jaws of the Werewolf, which you target a unit 2d6, it's got to be within 18 of the saga, other than a vehicle, roll 2d6 and subtract the target's move characteristic. The target suffers that many mortal wounds. So pretty much, you know, if you got something like an orc that moves 5, say an orc war boss, you hit him, you roll 2d6, say you roll a 7, you add his 5 to it, subtract it, and then that's how many mortal wounds. Sorry, subtract his. Jeez, that's a confusing one. I'll read it out to you. So it has a charge value, so if manifested, select an enemy unit with 18 in the saga other than a vehicle, roll 2d6, subtract the target's move characteristics, and it suffers that many mortal wounds to the result. Okay, yep. So if you roll a 7, then, you know, it has a 5, subtract that, takes 2 mortal wounds. Sorry about a little bit of blabber in there. The other one's a little bit confusing. Alright, so they're the 3 psychic powers that I've gone with, which means that he also gets smite as well, so, you know, you've got the possibility of really hitting something with some mortal wounds. Gazgol. So the next is Bjorn. So Bjorn will be the Warlord. So if you're not taking this guy in your Space Wolves list, go back, reassess your life, come back, put him in your list. So he's a toughness 8 dreadnought, and he's got feel no pains. The first things that's really good. He's got a movement of 8. He gives you an extra command point when you put him in his army for being old as fucking dust. And he comes with a few, just like, the first thing is he's got the captain reroll of 1s. Now, the reason I take him as the Warlord is because he's a really good anchor in the center of your army. So with Saga of the Majesty, first off, he makes everyone fearless. No one has to take morale tests as you're going up the field. You don't want to be losing units due to fire. You want everybody in there fighting. Then the other part of Saga of the Majesty is it buffs up his reroll 1 aura to 9. So having him in the center of your troops and everything as they're making their advance forward, he's giving him the reroll 1s and the fearless bubble. Plus also being just a fantastic support unit. This thing, he has on him twin las cannons, so he's a venerable dread, so he hits on 2s. When he moves, he hits on 3s. That's okay because he still re-rolls the 1s. That's 2 las cannon shots, so he's really good long range support. He's got a heavy flamer on him as well for when he gets a bit closer, and his true claw is just brutal. So it's strength 12, AP 4, D6 damage. But it re-rolls to hits and re-rolls to wounds. So you're just grinding through stuff. He starts off with like 5 attacks, then you charge, you get 6 attacks. Now with this new exploding rule, who knows how many attacks he's going to get, because I don't think I've missed an attack or a wound with him in a game yet with all the re-rolls. So statistically, he's solid for crunch and shit. If you don't have like a storm shield or something, you're going to get hurt. So he's the Warlord. So he pretty much just center anchor, all round anti-tank, anti-infantry, anti-everything, and support character. Great model. You can pretty much make him out of any dreadnought as well if you don't have access to the actual model. I was lucky enough to get the model cheap, but you can make him quite simply. He's a dreadnought. All right, and the last one is Ragnar blackmaine, which I just showed just before. So you have seen his rules. He's a pretty much captain stats, primaris captain stats. 7 attacks base. He's got a few special rules, like he allows Space Wolves to re-roll the charge, which is really good. So moving up the field with Njal and the big boy, he's going to allow everything to re-roll their charges. He also allows consolidation moves up to 6. So if you destroy an enemy unit and you're within 6 of him, you can consolidate forward 6 inches. This is absolutely massive. There's so many tactics videos on things like if you're fighting Imperial Guard or something like that, and you smash up a unit of, or Tau, anything that's gunline, you smash up a unit of a screen, and then you've got a 6-inch consolidate. That throws people's tactics way out, because you can consolidate into a tank, shut down their firepower. It's really, really, really useful. Don't underestimate it. It's going to give some people some trouble. They're not going to see it coming. It's rough. The other thing he does is he's just an absolute meat grinder. When I was reading through, I had to read it several times with his attacks and statistics. So on the charge, he just gets a base extra 3 attacks. That's his buff. He's just got insane bravado. He's runs in there. So on the charge, if he gets charged or if heroically intervenes, so anytime his first round of combat, pretty much, he's getting 10 attacks base. On top of that, if it's the assault doctrine, then you got your 6s that you're going to get extra hits. Then you've got things like if you take a character with the Wolfenstone, that's extra hits. You can even there's a new stratagem out now called the Wild, which allows exploding hits to go off on 4s. So he's hitting on 2s, re-rolling 1, so all his hits are probably getting through anyway. So you pretty much got your base of 10, then all those extra ones. Now his sword is strength 6, AP 4, damage 2, so I can see this guy running in and clearing out like 10-man units of Primaris Marines, or just hacking up big groups of Orc Knobs. Things like Tyrannid Warriors he's going to make short work of, because their 3 wounds aren't going to count for nothing anymore. Running into units of Death Guard. Yeah, you've got your disgustingly resilient, but you're going to be taking so many of them. You're going to get overwhelmed. It's ridiculous, but that's where he's at. So he's also got the reroll ones buff as well. So there's a couple of that in there. Moving forward, there may be a 4th HQ choice, which could be like a battle leader to get the reroll ones to wound. The only downfall of him I see is obviously his weapon is strength 6. So don't get too carried away throwing him at ginormous toughness 7 and toughness 8 things. I've made this mistake many times with things like Demon Princes and stuff. You're going to get all your hits through. You're going to get minimal, like you're not going to wound as much as you think you're going to wound. Unless you've got some sort of reroll for the wound. If you got that, go nuts. Alright, so they're my 3 HQ choices. We'll move on to the troops next, and I'll show you what I got and why I've chosen them. Too easy. We'll be back in a minute. Alright guys, so here we are with the troops section. I've chosen 3 troops. I was never going to do this before, but I wanted to add some character to the army, so I've gone with 3 different troop selections. And also with the amount of new stratagems and rerolls and things you need, it's good to get some command points. So this will help make my battalion, and with Beyond, that'll give me 9 command points already in this army at 1100 points. So that's a pretty good start. So what do we got? Starting from the right, we've got a Blood Claws pack. So in that, we've got obviously bolt pistols and chainswords. We've got a guy with a flamer. We've got the pack leader, he's got a power sword, and then we've got the Wolfguard pack leader in Terminator armor at the front, and he's got 2 wolf claws. So that's the first unit. Then we've got a pack of Grey Hunters. So they've all got bolt guns and chainswords. There's one guy with a plasma gun in there, and then the pack leader's got his power fist. And then at the front here, Wolfguard pack leader in Terminator armor with Storm Bolter and power fist. And then at the end here, we've got 1 unit of intercessors with their bolt rifles, just middle of the road, and the pack leader has a power fist. So I think in this, with our Hunters Unleashed, it's a good idea to take advantage of power fists and stuff like that. So we'll go through what each unit, the plan is. So with the Blood Claws, I'm planning on having them as an outflanking unit. A, it's fluffy, and B, I think they'll hit pretty hard. These 2 units here possibly will be going up to 10-man units in the future as well. So with the Blood Claws unit, I plan on outflanking them because the whole idea is you want them in assault, take someone's rear objective, things like that. Games where I think it's important to have movement on the battlefield and have units that can pop out in places sort of, you know, turn 2, turn 3, where your opponent didn't think you could reach. So it could even be something as simple as shutting down a tank in the backfield, coming up behind groups of drones that we all know Tau loves to play with, and just slicing them down. I've gone traditional too with the pack leaders and stuff. Like, really happy with these like Terminators in their wolf armor and stuff. They're just cool. It's iconic. Do it. So that's the plan for them. They'll be outflanking. So they're all assault, power sword, claws, flamer, and then the other thing is, Blood Claws on the charge get an extra attack as their special rule, and now they get an extra attack as per the shock assault rule. So they're getting 4 attacks on the charge with their chainsword. Obviously the pack leader's got the extra attack, so he'll get 4, and then this guy, he's got 2 claws, so you know he's going to be pumping out like 5. Then obviously there's with the exploding 6s later on in the game, if they come out like say turn 3, come out of assault. Out of outflank, you're going to be coming in and just, even with a small unit like that, hitting like a ton of bricks. And I think it's pretty cool. Alright, coming across to here, we've got the Grey Hunters unit. Now these guys will be walking around with Bjorn, making the advance up the middle field. So, as I said, they're armed with chainswords, bolt guns, power fists. There's 2 power fists in there, plasma gun, and they're pretty much, the whole idea with them is stick with Bjorn. They'll be moving to that sort of center objective. So wherever he's always sort of moving forward, keep the army solid. That's where they'll be going as well. So I wouldn't really say bodyguard because he can fight for himself, but yeah. So they've got a couple of power fists in there, the plasma guns, so they can hit things pretty hard, and just a good amount of bolt fire. Good thing about having these Terminators as well is you can soak up some hits with them. The other reason is as well is because if the unit is destroyed, you can pay a command point and make these guys lone wolves. So either of these guys. So if at the end of the shooting phase, those guys are the last guys in the unit, you pay a command point, they gain the character keyword, an extra 2 attacks and an extra 2 wounds. So that could mean this guy could be, with his 2 lightning claws, he could be 4 wounds, extra 2 attacks, 5, 6. So he'll be getting 6 attacks on the charge with his lightning claws then. He's a character as well, which makes him even better again. And then exploding 6s. Same for this guy. Power Fist, he'll go up to 4 and then 5 on the charge. Then he'll have explode. So the good tactic, and the reason I like this as well, is you could have him sitting on an objective, shooting phase. Someone fires a heap of shots. Kills pretty much all of the unit. If you've still got your Terminator there, you pay the 1 command point. He becomes a character. He's still holding the objective. because he's a troops choice, they can't fire at him anymore or do anything else. So you just sit there on the objective. Also, you become a beat stick. So they got to come and take that from you now. So a little bit of tactics involved in putting them in. So they're not just to look pretty, they're also a good way of giving yourself a nice solid base of hanging on to an objective. It's not always going to pay off, but hey, if it works out, it works out. Think of this guy here, you know, he's in the backfield of someone's army, they shoot up the rest of the unit, he becomes the character, he's hidden in terrain holding an objective, you've got to come and dig him out. If you're not a combat army, that's not going to be a fun day. Alright, so that's the tactics behind these two. Outflanking, moving up to the centre. Now we've got the Primaris Marines. I was never going to add Primaris Marines into the list, but Ragnar decided to become a Primaris Marine, and I think he should be in the list, because moving forward you want to take the combat edge that you can. So the fluff behind these guys, to make my brain work with it, is that these guys were Ragnar Blackmaine's personal wolf guard, and when he went through the Rubicon, they went through with him as well to continue serving alongside him. So that's how I get my brain around it. Don't ask any more questions. Jokes, come on. Alright, so they're armed with the bolt rifles and the power fists. So I've put them in as a bit of an all-rounder. They can sit on a back objective because their bolt guns are quite long range, at range 30. Sitting still, you know, they get the 2 shots. There's a stratagem where you can have them rapid fire too, so they could just be putting a hail of fire down from the back line. If it is a game of Relic or something like that, that's why they got the power fist as well. They can move in and support the boys. So that's their job. There's a lot of stratagems now that are Primaris only, and they're quite good, so it's good to probably just have 1 unit of them in there. The boys have sniffed them to check they're alright, and at this point they're pretty happy with them. They're happy to have them in the pack. We'll see how they do on the battlefield as to whether they stay in or they get the boot. The good thing too is it gives me a good round, nice look of troops. You know, you've got your up and coming blood claws, you've got your veteran grey hunters, and you've got your Primaris support coming in. So pretty cool. So that's the troops choices. The next part is, and the last part that I've got so far, will be the heavy support. So I'll go on, have a look at that, and we'll go from there. Alright guys. Alright guys, here we are at heavy support. So at this point I haven't added in elites or fast attack, but there'll be further videos coming out as I make my way along. So heavy support so far, what have I got in here? I've got a whirlwind, and I have a long fangs pack. So we'll go from right to left. Long fangs pack, pretty straightforward. This is your anti-armor, anti-infantry, anti-everything long range support. As things are making their way up the field, they need that overwatch and cover fire. It's essential. You need to be able to reach out and touch somebody with your weapons too. I find games where you don't have long range firepower quite difficult and frustrating sometimes, when something's sitting really far back, you can't get to it and you're getting the shit shot out of you. So that's why they're in there. So what have I got in there? 2 las cannons, 3 with rockets, and then I've once again Terminator pack leader with the Cyclone missile launcher. He's got the Wolf Claw and a Storm Bolter. Now remembering what I said before about this is the same with the troops. If the unit gets shot up and he is your last guy, you can pay that command point to have him sit back. Then he becomes a character. You can sit in your back line firing off missiles, cutting things up with his claw. So it's quite good. So these guys also get a really good stratagem. I'm pretty sure it's called the Wolf's Eye. Now with that, I'm just double checking here. Okay, so keen senses. So I like to use that on these guys. 1 command point, and use this stratagem in the shooting phase. Choose a space wolves unit from your army. The unit does not suffer penalties to its hit rolls this phase. So say someone has a flyer or pesky elder units or something like that, you just fire away at them. It doesn't matter if they're going to use their stratagems to put all their minuses on, all that sort of stuff. Makes no difference because they don't get the penalties. So that means that I'm just hitting on my 3s as per normal. And the other thing too is Wolfguard, instead of getting a signum, they just get an automatic reroll 1 to hit. So, but they've got to choose the target. So you don't get to just do it on everything. If you split fire, you don't get to do it on 1 target you've chosen. I don't do split fire with them, that's not how I roll, but that is the rules. So if you got to hit something, you're hitting on 3s, re-rolling 1s, no penalties. That's just how it is. So that's really effective if you've got something like, or you know, someone's got a Storm Raven or something like that, and you've got to take that thing out because it's full of something, or just it's an absolute gunboat. You know, there's plenty of armies doing it. Grey Knights, Raven Guard, all these people with this pesky -1 to hit. Well, you just go, no mate, I've got keen sensors. Fucking bang. Alright. The other thing is, which is the Wolf's Eye. So this one allows you to re-roll hits or wound rolls, which is also 1 command point. So I'm more than happy to spend the 2 command points on these guys to get this going off. So that allows you to choose whether you want a full re-roll of your hits or a full re-roll of your wounds. I usually always go wounds. That's just me. So once again, you're firing at that Storm Raven or something really heavily armoured, or it's got negs to hit. You pay the first command point, you don't have negs to hit. Now you're hitting on 3s, re-rolling 1s naturally, and you've got a full re-roll of wounds. Now, if this goes off in the Devastator Doctrine, now that we've got that, that means your las cannons are now AP4, your rockets are now AP3. So you're putting in that extra work. You're really allowing yourself to comfortably delete a unit. You got those guys with things like who comes up against guard players with tank commanders, those pesky tank commanders. You will easily blow one out of its socks in 1 round of shooting with these upgrades. It's not hard at all. You can end a Land Raider with that kind of attack. Someone's got an Imperial Knight. I'm pretty confident you can smash it up pretty good. You got to remember all these weapons are D6 wounds, so that's why I take them. They're really good fire support. They've come up a gem in so many games. So take them, use those stratagems, and get them going. Alright, the next one, which I'm really happy with. I put a lot of work into converting and making this one happen. So this is my new Whirlwind, which I've put all the bells and whistles on, as in, what do we got? You know, little bits and bobs and shields and stuff. So really, really happy with this one. Now, the turret on that is off Valkyrie, so the 2 missile tubes off the Valkyrie. I wanted something different looking, so pretty much, if I take it off, doesn't want to come off. There we go. If you have a bit of a close look, it's actually just the Razorback bit with some beep boop boop bits on the front and whatnot, and I've put them on the side. So quite easy to make if you have the parts. So not a complex conversion, but a nice looking one. Gives your army a little bit of flavour and a little bit of a different look, which is nice in this era of 40k. Always want to sort of be having something that looks good. So the reason that's in the list is it's cheap, dirt cheap. And it gives you so many things. So indirect fire in this edition, I cannot express enough how important it is. It is just so important. You've got things that sit out of line of sight. You've got, once again, I keep going back to it, but it's a thing. Riptides with drones, even guardsmen, just clearing them out, orcs. So let's go through the 2 rounds that you can have. So depending on what your current meta is, you've got Vengeance and Castellan. So one is 2d6 strength 6 shots. So that's more your horde clearing. You know, you're playing against a lot of orcs, guard, Tau, stuff like that. That's probably the way to go. If you're playing against things a little bit heavier, people with primaris marines, lots of strength 7, strength 6 vehicles, the other weapon loadout is strength 7, AP 1, flat 2 damage, 2d3 shots. So that one's a bit more of, it's pretty much a long range auto cannon that doesn't need line of sight, so quite handy. There's so many battles you come up against where someone digs in a unit on an objective and you can't get line of sight, and it is just bloody annoying, and it's not even a tough unit. It's something like Grots or, as I said, guardsmen, or little 10-man unit of orcs, Tau Fire Warriors. You just got to remove them off. So take one of these. That thing comes in at 80 points with the 2d6 strength 6 shots. The other thing is too, in the Devastator Doctrine, so turn 1, that thing's going to be AP 1. So good way of, like I said, clearing out drones, clearing out troops. The idea for me is I do play Triptides a lot, so the whole idea is drone clearance. That's really why it's in the list. So, you know, these two comboed up, blow away the drones, hit the Riptide. You can even do it so, you know, the Whirlwind hits drones. If they've got a mass amount of drones, you might use the frag rounds on the rockets to clear out more drones, then hit the Riptide with a couple of las cannon shots. There's a few combinations you can do there, but that's why it's in the list. And just, if you're making a 40k list, consider having that. You have to have things that can hit things that you don't need line of sight. And this for us is really cheap. I'd probably take a Thunderfire cannon over this, but Space Wolves don't have access to that, so Whirlwind it is. This thing's cheaper anyway. It's probably a little bit harder to kill. Hide it out of line of sight and rain death from above on your enemies. Alright, so that's the heavy support. We'll go over a bit of a summation of the list and then that'll be it. Alright. Alright guys, there you have it. That is the list so far. So I have a quick summation of what we've got. So, HQs, we've got combat, we've got support, we've got psychic defense covered. Troops, we've got very flexible troops. We've got outflanking troops, troops that can hold objectives strongly, troops that can sit in the back line. All of them can assault. Then up the back, we've got firepower and fire support to give us our advance. So overall, the boxes that I'm always trying to tick when I'm making a list is, can I be effective in every phase? So the movement phase, you know, your psychic phase, your shooting phase, and your combat phase. So far, as I'm slowly building this list, repainting, rebasing it, I'm covering all the bases. Got the long range fire support, plenty of las cannons, plenty of rockets, plenty of out of line of sight hitting. Got plenty of command points as well because we've got our 3 troops choices. We've got a variation of them, so we've got the Blood Claws to outflank, the Grey Hunters to move up centre, and the Intercessors to fill in the role that they need to. All 3 of those units have got good shooting, good combat, good movement, good assault. And then obviously our characters. Bjorn is just an absolute beast all around. I can't say enough good things about that unit. It's just brilliant. Then you got Njal. If you're going to take Psyker, why not take him? He's the best of the best. He's got his little buffs and perks that make him better than all the rest. And now we've got our new Ragnar, which, as I said, I've made mine. For those of you waiting on yours, or if you want to have a crack at making one, it's quite simple to do with a few upgrades. So that's the list. I feel like at this point it's covering all bases. The only thing I need to add in next, which is on the painting table, is a bit more speed and movement. So hopefully you've enjoyed this. With everything going on out there, guys, as I said before, keep yourself safe, look after yourselves, and I'll get back to making more videos. When I've painted some more units up and taken this up to 1500, we'll revisit it again. Alright guys, enjoy. If you like this stuff, like and subscribe, and I'll get back to you. Alright.